Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I am Ron Luce. I am joined by a familiar face. We saw him about 24 hours ago. I am joined by Mr. Tyler Edmonds there on the bottom of your screen. And the Cheese Man's able to join us tonight. Mr. Joey Ricotta is on the microphone with us tonight. Gentlemen, first off, how are we doing this evening before we start to get into the X's and O's of what happened in MLB free agency today?
Hey, I'm good, man. Everybody's talking this morning about the big Aaron Judge signing. There was a big signing earlier this morning that we almost had. We almost were live to talk about it then. But shot of Jameson, baby. I'm good. I'm doing good.
Good, man. Joey, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm kind of just like moseying through life right now. I'm good, but I feel like I've been staring at screens. I've been giving myself headaches for the last 3 days, or at least the last two. Yeah, maybe some calluses too. They're working hard. That refresh button, it's working hard, but pressing buttons real hard. It feels like all my real life conversations that I've been having, I've been like it's 1 year out, 1 year in, and 1 year out because I barely can pay attention long enough before I have to check my phone. So to answer your question, I'm good, but I would be much better if I didn't have to do this shit for much longer.
I feel that, man, and I totally get that. And yeah, I mean the winter meetings are slowly coming to an end here, and it's kind of weird because like Tuesday was so active, right? Like everybody signing people, Judge stays in New York. Like it just chaos ensued, even into like kind of the early hours of this morning, really is what it was. Just pure chaos. Obviously the Cubs getting Jameson Taillon, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. And then there was a couple of moves on Wednesday, and now everything's like eerily quiet. And I don't know how I feel about it. Like I'm still excited, but like I'm losing hope, but I'm not losing hope. And I think we're going to get to that here in a little while as well, probably toward the end of the show. But let's discuss things that we already do know, that aren't hypotheses, that aren't sixth senses, that we tangibly know have come true. And that is the Cubs signing Jameson Taillon. I think that's a great place for us to start. 4-year deal, $68 million, comes out to a $17 million a year average. Truthfully, for a guy who last season threw 177 innings with a 3.91 ERA, granted, take wins for what they are, but he was 14-5 last year for the Yanks. Pitched really well last season, had a really good year. He's obviously had some solid years back in his days with Pittsburgh. Had a couple of rough years in there, and then obviously had Tommy John in 2020, which kept him out. But looked good, and now the Cubs have a guy. They got another guy to add to the rotation with the likes of Justin Steele and Marcus Stroman. And others. I say others because we're still kind of learning what the rotation is going to look like minus those two. But gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about what we think here about Mr. Shot of Jameson here. And Tyler, with that note, I'll let you lead it off, man. How you feeling about the Taillon sign? Like you said, we almost broke it. We were still talking on here, you Juice and I, when the rumblings started coming out that he was going to be signing.
Well, dude, we've talked about it. We needed a pitcher, and Taillon was one of those guys that we mentioned that could be a possibility, and a guy that we would like to have. Like you said, he's familiar already with the NL Central. He's put up not like outstanding numbers, but quality numbers, and all those numbers you just talked about was in New York. He did that in New York, and I know people are whatever. It's a different animal. New York's a different animal. Plus, you take away. He had probably half those starts at home. You've got the short porch there. Maybe he got robbed on a few runs a couple of times that maybe wouldn't have been runs in other places. So you know what? Jameson Taillon is number 3 guy for us. Probably number 3. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely. Joey, what are your thoughts on the signing right out the gate here?
Just like Tyler said, it's he's a warrior, I think, with, he's beaten cancer. That's kind of actually makes for a decent little reunion if they can pull the trigger on Trey Mancini, maybe too. Not reunion, but let's get the cancer survivors together. That would be kind of cool. Nice little storyline.
Two guys with a true just immaculate willpower.
Absolutely, man. And then that you guys mentioned, the Tommy John. He's dealt through some things. He's not like a crazy strikeout getter, obviously. I kind of feel like maybe a little bit pricey on the pricier side for a guy that you're kind of locking in as a 3. But it seems to me that that's just the going rate right now. Like that's just the going rate. Taijuan Walker and him seem like pretty similar pitchers. Walker got a little bit more on the dollar value per year. I believe it was like 1 million more than Taillon. So I don't know, man. The Cubs locked on him pretty early on. It sounds like Jed and Tommy Hotovy and those guys, they see an arsenal that they can work with. They see a guy that has, and it's pretty diverse. He's got like a 6-pitch mix. He doesn't really strike a ton of guys out, but he's got an elite walk rate. Like this guy doesn't walk hardly anybody. He was like in the top 5 percentile of the league last season as far as walk rate goes. So, yeah, I'm really excited because I think that this kind of really bolsters the for sure guys that you can kind of pencil in if healthy. And even if it does look on the surface like it's a little bit pricey, that's just the going rate right now. Pitching is crazy. It's so hard to predict these contracts this season.
Yeah.
I think I've done a pretty decent job just like personally looking at like player markets positionally, like what they're going to get. And like Contreras, like I think he's probably going to get 18 million a season. And he got 17.5. He didn't quite get that 18 million, but it was close. And that's why I thought there was a shot that he accepts the qualifying offer. Now, Contreras took the guaranteed money, but pitching is flying off the charts as far as like Kenley Jansen. Like, look what Kenley Jansen got as a reliever. Like, and he's not in his prime. So, like, how valuable pitching is.
What was it, like 16 million a year?
I believe it was like 32 million
for 2
total
years. Yeah,
Yep.
I mean he's making almost what Taillon got paid as a reliever later in his career. And you know what? I mean, I personally look back at Taillon's career, and I really think between the cancer and the Tommy John, like he kind of got robbed of his ascent. If you really look at the pattern that was happening, because obviously 2016 was his rookie season. He comes in at age 24, 104 innings as a rookie, 18 games started. Pretty solid. Only 85 strikeouts. I say only, still not a bad number, but and only 17 walks. Then in 2017, it creeps up a little more, right? 25 starts, 46 walks, only to 125 strikeouts. Very nice numbers. And then in 2018, he only had a 3.20 ERA, 2 complete games, 1 complete game shutout through nearly 200 innings, and only walked 46 guys to 179 strikeouts. Like, those are great freaking numbers. And then he only pitches 7 games, making 7 starts in 2019, is robbed of the 2020 season, and then really was making his way back in 2021. Still started 29 games for the Yankees. Didn't pitch as many innings, obviously, only 144 in the third innings. 140 strikeouts, so almost a strikeout per inning guy, only 44 walks. And then, Joey, to your point, last season, 32 starts. Kind of felt like he got back to that point where he was in 2018. And 177 in the third innings, 151 Ks, only 32 walks with a 3.91 ERA. Again, like you said, in New York, and not just in New York from a market standpoint, the pressure of pitching in New York. In New York, playing in the AL East, which is arguably one of the craziest divisions in baseball on a year-to-year basis. So I really think that shows a lot of where Taillon is. And that was only his age 30 season. Like, you probably got 2 years of still his prime, right? Of Taillon in his prime years, 31, 32. And then you got 2 years where, yeah, maybe you're like, that's 17. You wish it was more like 12. But again, like Joey said, that's just the going rate right now for pitching. But I'll tell you what I think I like about it the most, I saw something a little bit earlier that strikes me that this is a guy that the Cubs targeted, right? And I think we're starting to understand that this new regime for the Cubs post Theo with Contreras and Carter Hawkins in the front office, they know how to evaluate pitching. We've seen a lot of that, right? We've seen guys like Brandon Hughes come up. We've seen guys like Scotty Efros come up. We've seen guys like Justin Steele take that next step forward. This is a guy I think they really, really wanted, because according to what I heard, he said that only one team met with him in person, not over like a Zoom call, and that was the Cubs. So that goes a long way, right? Like, yeah, a lot of it's very efficient for teams to just be able to get on a Zoom call with guys, obviously, right? But like, in order to meet with them in person, that goes a long way, saying, hey, guy, we want you here. We want you to be a part of this. And I think he's going to fit really well with Stroh and with Steele and whomever fills out the last two rotation spots. So I think it is a really good get. And guys, I want to kind of stay along the Taillon lines here just really quick, but I want to gauge your guys' opinion on something. And that is kind of the, like, what happens now, right? Because $17 million a year kind of screams to me like, hey, we expect this guy to be like a number probably 3, right? I mean, I think we all can confidently sit here and say that Steele has earned the right to be the 1. Obviously, you know, Stroh is the big money man. He's probably going to be your 2 going into next season. So Taillon probably slots in as a 3 right now. They're still reportedly in on Senga.
Mm-hmm.
There's still some arms out there. Obviously, they maybe aren't as high profile as guys like Taillon and Walker were, and some of these other guys that have signed, right? Chris Bassett's and things like that. Do you think that they still truly go get a guy like Senga or another guy that's going to cost them probably over 12 to 13 mil? Or do you think they opt for those guys kind of in the mid-range that might command more like Wade Miley money, where it's like $10 million or $9 million, and maybe only for like 1 or 2 seasons? Because I think if they could get Senga, they would pull the trigger and do it still. But if they are out on Senga, I'm wondering if they go to the bargain bin. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on here. Joey, I'll turn to you here first, my man. Just what do you think? Like, what is the pitching outlook now as a result of them signing Jameson Taillon?
They've got, man, I mean, it's a great question because you look at their depth just from a starting pitching standpoint and what you can do with the flexibility with those guys, with Adrian Sampson kind of having a really nice season last year. And not that he was supposed to be the first person that I named, but just thinking depth-wise, I'm kind of working backwards and then forwards here. Like, you got Javier Assad, who looked decent. You've got those guys that are on the bottom edge where they can probably be solid bullpen arms and spot start guys. Do you want to rely on them going into the season? Probably not, and you probably don't need to, especially if we think that Wesneski can be – like, a lot of people have high hopes for Wesneski, and he looked dominant. Like, that's kind of the guy that I really think should be in the rotation. But if you go out there and you get another guy, then you're kind of blocking him from – what are you going to do, 6-man rotation? Because I think we all believe that you have 5 guys and you're going to give – Hendricks that 5th spot, right? Out of respect, out of him working with Driveline, seeing if he can get back to the Kyle Hendricks of old. It's probably going to be a really short leash, right? Like, but going into the season, I'm assuming that he's in the rotation, as everybody does. And so now you look at it at the top. I actually would probably push back on Steele being number 1. I think out of respect too, kind of similar to Hendricks, I think Stroman's probably walking in opening day starter. And you know, he pitched really well in the second half too. So like, you could really make an argument of like which one gets the 1 or 2 between him and Steele. I think the potential ace, the horse in that staff right now, obviously we like what we saw from Wesneski, but Steele has that lefty strikeout power past you. The slider's disgusting. He can pound that thing into righties with the fastball, and he was doing that. And we saw a lot of that last year. And that's what made him really effective, like minimizing it to like that 2-pitch mix. I know I'm focusing on what the Cubs have right now more than anything, but like, I think Keegan goes back in the bullpen. I really do. That's
agreed.
What happens, I'm assuming, especially when you go out and get a guy like Jameson Taillon. You can fuck that name up so many different ways. I've heard Taillon. I've heard Taillon. It's just
I heard somebody say Taillon the one day, and my brain cringed. I was just like, nah, like it was just, Anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, Taillon or Taillon, I think is acceptable, but those like
Taillon,
there's no tail. It's not a tail. A tailium, whatever you want to say. Sorry for making me cringe again, Ron. But honestly, though, I do think, man, like they can go out and get another horse. Like you can go out. I would love to see the Senga, that ghost fork that he throws. That ghost fork is disgusting. It was actually the hardest hardest pitch to make contact with in Japan, based on a profile that I was reading and looking at. Like the hardest pitch to make contact with, on top of a pitch that he can get up to 100 with that fastball and just the arsenal that he has. I think if you don't land, I guess this will be like my prediction right here. I think if you don't land Correa, which you can still go ahead and get Correa or like a Bogarts and a Senga. I think if they end up with a Swanson, they're probably going to go ahead and like reverse engineer. You're still going to have to go ahead and get hitters though too on top of that. But I think they might go really pitching dominant, go out there and get Senga and maybe trade some of this starting pitching depth that you might not feel as confident in, but another team might be like, hey, we'll take that in the deal and we could package him together and get like a Sean Murphy. I'm not saying like just an option out there. I honestly think that's probably outside chance that the Cubs would get like a catcher like Sean Murphy at this point, because I think the asking price is a little high, but it sounds like they're looking at major league talent. So I don't know. I feel like I've been talking for like 5 minutes, but my head is all over the place, Ron. We've been staring at screens for hours. I don't know. I feel like I need sleep. It's a wild time right now to be a Cubs fan.
That it is. Tyler, I would love to get your thoughts here. Like what is the path forward?
Not to beat the same drum that we've been scrolling and reading and listening to all day long and yesterday and everything like that. I think all of it, like Joey just said, I think all of it will depend on if we sign one of the shortstops and who we sign. Obviously, if we sign Correa, I don't see us jumping on the single wagon, just because supposedly, and I'm not 100% sure how accurate it is, but John Heyman said earlier today on MLB Network he's looking for a 5-year deal. Depending on what that would be annually, who knows? But if we were to get a guy like Correa, I don't know if necessarily we would be able to afford him. It just depends on what his price is. But then, if we go with somebody like a Swanson, whoever, no matter what happens, whatever happens with the shortstops, I think will determine as far as who will sign next, as far as pitchers. Bassett, I heard Bassett in the mix. I've heard obviously Senga, but I think they're going to sign at least. They've got to sign at least one other pitcher. I know we've talked about depth and everything like that, but you guys know, very beginning of this season, we talked about it last night. The majority of our reports on our page earlier this year was injuries. So I would be perfectly fine, even if it's like a guy like. I would be fine with let's talk to Drew Smiley again. Maybe Wade Miley. If I had to pick between one of them, I'd pick Smiley. But maybe one of those guys. Maybe. And at the same time, though, a guy like Drew Smiley with the numbers he put up last year, I'd love to have him. But his asking price is going to be higher. I think, like what Joey said, maybe the new 1 year $10 million deal is now 15 million, 17 million, whatever it is. Maybe that's just the new, because you've got, you had Verlander, the whole Verlander and DeGrom signings. Those signings, yeah, they're, you got DeGrom coming off the Cy Young or not DeGrom, but Verlander coming off the Cy Young and DeGrom being DeGrom. Those guys set the bar. Yeah, we all figured they were going to make that much. But then you've got them two, Rodon, right below there, and then maybe Bassett in that same group, and then a tier below that. And even those tiers, like even the third tier guys are going to make more than what they would have last year.
Absolutely.
So either way, I think the next move that happens as far as with shortstops, whichever one of those guys sign, I think more teams are going to get desperate to sign somebody. Hey, we got to hurry up and sign somebody, whether it's a pitcher. Like if we don't sign any of the shortstops, knock on wood, I would hope we would sign at least one of these pitchers. I hope we would jump in on the Senga sweepstakes, because I like the whole idea of Juice's Cub Hub. I think that, because even not to even branch even way farther out there, but supposedly which just like all the other 30 teams, are going to be in talks with Ohtani, who's a free agent. Maybe Senga is a bridge to that. I don't know. Just throwing that crap out there. But yeah, I would expect us to at least get another pitcher, whether that's a third tier guy, second tier guy, whatever. But yeah, it's just all going to depend on, I feel like, what shortstop goes where.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are so many different ways this can go, right? Because Joey, as you kind of mentioned too, right? They're still going to need some bats, and you know what? I think and this is a collective we. This isn't necessarily we just at Cubs on Tap. I think this is we as MLB fans that are watching MLB free agency right now are so focused on the big names, right? The Judges, the Correas, the four big shortstops that we've discussed that. A lot of these guys are going under the radar. Like the Cubs could easily turn around and go get, a quote unquote bench bat guy, maybe like a Jurickson Profar or an Adam Duvall, or if
Matt
you want to
Carpenter?
upgrade third base, maybe if you really wanted to get Carpy, you could play him as a DH, I guess. But there's a good list of players still out there. Brandon Drury had a really nice year last year.
Very good. year.
Justin Turner, if you want a 1-year deal at a third base, he's out on the market. Evan Longoria, if you want a 1-year deal for an older third baseman. Like, there's still a lot of pretty decent players on the market that I think a lot of people are forgetting about. And I think that will allow them to be okay. I think they need to get, like we talked about off air before this, they need to get one shortstop. They need to get one of these guys, even if it is Dansby. I know he's the quote unquote lesser of the four, but like he's still a really good fucking player. Like that still is going to make your team better at the end of the day. But right now, I look at the starting pitching market, guys, and I can't see them paying Carlos Rodon. I just immediately throw that out of my head. I'm just like, I just don't see it happening. I don't think they want to give the dollars that he's looking for, because he had 2 really good seasons. Like, I just don't think that happens. And as a result, like you guys said, I kind of start looking at this next tier of guys, kind of where, Taillon kind of like filled in and sits. There's some pretty decent guys out there. A guy that was tied to the Cubs earlier this season, Corey Kluber, is kind of right in that range. If you go by WAR, I know WAR is a very flawed statistic, but it's what they put in the MLB.com article that lists all the top free agents at each position. For example, Carlos Rodon was technically the best pitcher on the market if you go by WAR. He was an 11.1 compared to Kershaw and DeGrom, who were the next two behind him at 7.2 and 7.1. But another guy that could make a lot of sense for the Cubs, he's 33 years old, but he's had a couple of really good years, and a lot of people don't appreciate him unless you really follow baseball. What about Nathan Eovaldi? Like, how cool would a guy like that be? Maybe on a 3 or a 4-year contract.
Flamethrower.
Yeah, like he's still a really good pitcher.
Did he not? He didn't accept the qualifier then.
No,
he did it, but it's still attached to him. And there was a report earlier today that I saw, Joey. I'm glad you brought that up. That a lot of people are hypothesizing the markets for guys like Eovaldi, for Bassett, for some of the other guys are going to be slower because they are attached to the qualifying offer. Guys that aren't attached to the qualifying offer are flying off the shelves like toys at Christmas time. Like that's just how it is right now.
And that's what's making not to cut you off, Correa. It's making Correa super attractive right now, too.
Absolutely, because he's not attached to it at all, right? So that is, I think, something that a lot of people are going. But, guys, even if they don't want to go after an Eovaldi or a Bassett or a Kluber or a Sean Manaea, those are probably some of the bigger names that are still out there, obviously, besides Rodon. But what about bringing Wade Miley back on a 1-year contract? He had a 3.5 WAR last year. I mean, he obviously pitched very sparingly, but, like, if Andrew Haney is going to get a 2-year deal with good money from Texas, who he's technically was better than, as long as Miley could stay healthy, Miley was the better pitcher technically than Smiley last season, contrary to popular belief, if you go by WAR. Again, if you go by WAR, I know it's a flawed statistic, but just bear with me. So, there is a chance I think they could reunite with one of the two that they had last season if all else fails. I really do think, though, that Jed and Carter in the front office right now probably are focusing on Senga. I think they really want Senga. I think in their eyes, they're turning their sights to Bogarts or Swanson with Senga in mind, right? Like, I think the Correa idea has kind of passed because now that San Fran missed out on Judge, they're ready to go bonkers and spend a fuck ton of money. The Padres, for whatever forsaken fucking reason, are still in the market for middle infielders. It's not like they don't have Machado and Tatis on the left side of their infield, but I digress. And you just went out and got Soto, and I get it. You gotta keep up with the Joneses that are the Dodgers in your division, but like
powerhouse over there, man. They're all swinging dicks over there in the
California, just big old swinging dicks. Well, everybody that's not named the Rockies.
The one thing with San Diego, as far as wanting to spend this money on let's say a Correa, it makes you wonder how they feel about Manny Machado next year opting for free agent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they've got a hunch that Manny's going to walk out for a little bit and ask for more money, and maybe they're just preparing themselves for that by, adding a Correa. Who knows?
Maybe. No, and that's I absolutely think that's something too. I think that's something that's in their minds too, and I think also something that's in their minds, guys, is Tatis being kind of a knucklehead.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
exactly
riding motorcycles and supposedly being kind of negative in the clubhouse for this team. Like maybe they're in a situation where they're like, shit, we got to have something in place. Mm-hmm. God forbid Tatis, blows his hand off or something. Yeah. And like you said, Machado walks as an opt-out next season.
And he's technically he's probably next year going to be valued as a shortstop, because that's what he was a shortstop for the Dodgers, went to San Diego and got that $300+ million deal. He probably thinks, hey, in his mind, he's a shortstop that's playing third base.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's absolutely a possibility too. So that's going to be really something interesting to watch. But like I said, I think as a result of that, I've kind of mentally told myself the Cubs aren't getting Correa. So really it is probably a Bogarts or a Swanson. I'd love to see Senga. I wouldn't even be mad if maybe they missed on Senga and they go after like two of those guys that are kind of in that mid-range. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's a bad idea at all, because again, we've seen, how many times, guys, did we sit here, or especially early last season on this podcast, and just absolutely want to bash our heads in because the pitching staff couldn't stay healthy.
All the time.
That was a big issue.
All the time.
And I'm sure
that's part of the reason why I don't really want a guy like Miley, though. I will say that. I think if you would want one of those two, that's part of the reason why I would want a Smiley.
Miley will be entering his 36-year-old season, something like that. Okay,
correct. Yep.
Which
I honestly think if you're going to go that route at all, though, this is just kind of like what I was thinking after we've been sitting here. If you're going to go that route at all, I don't even know if you need to. Like, I know you need you want depth, as much depth as possible, and maybe you want a bullpen role for those guys too. But there are some relievers out there that you might be able to take.
Andrew Chaffin's on the market.
There's just so little spots. That's why, honestly, Ron and Tyler, I think this is a spot. The Cubs are in a beautiful position to make a trade. I think they are going to make a trade once they land whatever that fish is. Whichever one it is,
that big one.
Something's popping off. They've been talking to different GM. It's been a while since we've actually seen a really big trade from the Cubs outside of the teardown, right? The get rid of the core. We haven't seen an acquisition trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's coming. I really do.
Yeah, maybe. So I think that's the beauty of where I wanted that conversation to go was, we're all just as clueless, right? All of us are well, they could do this, they could do that. But I think what I wanted to highlight with that, guys, for our listeners and even for just us as the offseason kind of rolls along, is there's still a lot of pretty okay options out there on the market. Maybe guys that aren't necessarily game changers like these top 4 shortstops and an Aaron Judge and some of those kind of guys. But there's still a lot of quality talent out there available for the Cubs to sign. And I think we all know that Jed's kicking the tires on just about every single guy humanly possible. So moves are going to happen. I think just the big dominoes all need to fall in order for some of those smaller ones to continue to fall. But guys, with free agency in mind, but kind of on the back burner for at least a few minutes here, the division rivals picked up a friendly face of ours. Willson Contreras is now a St. Louis Cardinal. And we could break down what this means. I would turn our listeners to Joey, your article that you wrote today about Willson Contreras' fit with the Cardinals and why the Cubs maybe passed on it. And for those that are curious, where you can find that on tapsportsnet.com, you can find that under our Cubs section. But guys, I want to start first with just raw reaction, because there was a lot of raw reaction on Twitter today. And I admittedly went out and I tweeted and I said I was going to leave some of my thoughts and feelings for this show, because I wanted to get people in. I wanted them to join us. We haven't had any comments yet tonight. Hopefully that changes before we wrap up here this evening. But guys, this is where I want you to kind of let me hear it. Like I want to know how you guys are feeling. Joey, I'll let you let off last time. So Tyler, I'll go right back to you, my friend. Just raw reaction. How you feeling?
My instant reaction when I saw it, I wasn't shocked because, we've heard the rumors. We've heard that, ever
Absolutely.
since, all off season. Yeah, it sucks. It was kind of a punch to the gut to see him sign there, but I'm not mad. I'm not mad at him. I'm not. And I'm not even mad. I'm not mad that Jed let him walk. Here's the thing that kind of ticked me off. It had nothing to do with him. It had nothing to do with our front office. It's all these Cubs fans on Twitter that want to blast Willson, that want to blast Jed. Oh, why didn't you trade him? Why didn't you trade him by the trade deadline last year? And blah blah blah. Let's be honest. All of you out there that are saying, "Oh, you should have traded him by the trade deadline last year," those same people are the ones that would complain, more than likely, complain and cry that we traded him for some mid-level guy.
Yep.
Some mid-level guy, some who's he? Let's even be honest. If he even got traded for Urquidy for the Astros, we would have probably been saying the same. We traded Willson for this guy. Urquidy's great, but a lot of people didn't realize Urquidy was great until the playoffs this past postseason. But those same people would be upset and pissed off, yelling on Twitter about how we traded him for this guy and anything like that. And those are the ones that would honestly bawl if they traded him for anyone. It wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered. At the end of the day, I kind of smiled after just thinking about all of it because at the end of the day, St. Louis acknowledged that Willson was better than Yachty. They paid Willson more. I love that. I love the fact I was hoping, if anything, because you heard the rumors, I was really hoping. The next thing I was hoping was, oh, please, 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 please pay him more. Pay him more. And they did. I don't care what you want to say. Oh, well, the market's different now. It don't matter. On paper, Willson got paid more than Yachty. St. Louis finally has a catcher that knows how to catch. They haven't had anything like that in the past 20 years. That's fine. But yeah, it sucks. It's going to suck watching them play in St. Louis. It's going to sting a little bit. I may be talking a little bit too much, but at the same time, maybe St. Louis was the only place Willson saw that he was going to get a lot of playing time behind home plate. Houston was looking at him. Houston was looking at him for left field and the DH spot more than anything.
Yeah.
Other than that, where else were there? Where else was he going to go? Maybe, I know, like last offseason, or the trade deadline that people were talking about, maybe Tampa. Jed took a chance. Hey, I'm going to let him play out this season. Maybe he signs with us. Maybe he doesn't. He didn't. I'm fine with it. And it sounds like, I'm fine, but I'm really not. I'm good with it. I'm fine with it. Like,
and then the crying behind it.
Yeah. No, like what Juice said a few weeks ago, I'm over, he was talking about 2016, I'm over being pissed off about the old core guys not coming back. I'm over it. I'm over that. And it's time that it's time that fans got over it. Because it's exhausting. Because if you pay, and I promise I'll shut up here after this, if you pay, let's say we paid $17.5 million. That same maybe we paid him 18. Let's say we paid him $20 million for 4 years. Those same people are going to bitch because, well, we paid him those $20 million a year. What if that keeps us from getting one of these shortstops? What if that keeps us from getting another pitcher that we want?
People won't even think. Some of those people won't even think about that.
Maybe not.
Yeah, we extended Willson.
And then those are the people halfway through this season that are going to bitch because we don't have pitching. Oh my gosh, our pitching staff's getting lit up. Well, you know what? We paid $20 million for a catcher that, I love the guy, appreciate the guy. I would have loved to seen him retire as a Cub, but you know what? Our front office obviously knows him better than just about any other organization. They saw he wasn't worth that much to them. Okay, move on, make your money, go live your life and go make your money. And I hope you have a great rest of your career.
Joey. Talk to me. How you feeling?
I got a lot of thoughts. Tyler, man, I didn't want you to stop talking because you were on a roll too. But I got a lot of thoughts on this situation because on one hand, it's like, Willson, man, like you did so much for this organization. You did so much for us as Cubs fans. The very first pitch he saw, he cracks one out of the ballpark. Ron, you have a lot of memories with that, obviously.
Sure do. Was in attendance for it.
So I mean, he was, longest tenured. I'm pretty sure still when he left. So this now we know he's not coming back, right? So it's like it's hard. He's been with the team forever, with the organization forever, and so I understand that side of it, right? Like the whole fan part of it, it hits me too. That him just leaving, the fact that he's leaving, and then you talk about going to your arch nemesis, your rival, those dirty, disgusting. I hate them so freaking much because every time it seems like the Cubs are on the way climbing up over them every single year. Here they come. They're going to make it somehow competitive. At least that's how it was growing up. And it just kind of feels that way. And now they stole him away. The Cardinals stole him away. I'm not mad, though. Like, I'm happy for him. I have no animosity towards Willson. I think it's great for him for getting his money. And maybe he got a little bit less than I thought that he was going to get on the open market. Like I thought he was going to get 18, but he was close to it, 17.5 per year. And okay, like that's fine. I mean, that's the Cubs philosophically chose not to bring him back. And I don't think it was just a Jed Hoyer thing. I know people are wanting to put it on Jed. I think this was an internal discussion, a lot of internal discussions with coaching and who's a guy that knows the position better than anybody or as good as anybody?
The manager.
Yeah.
David Ross.
The former catcher. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many guys has he caught like big games for? Like John Lester?
Caught an Arrieta no-hitter.
There's a reason to me, and that report or whatever people were – there was – stuff going on about John Lester, like, oh, he's working against the Cubs with, St. Louis because the Cubs disrespected him. Bull fucking shit. He was just at Wrigley towards the end of the season. He was giving Justin Steele pointers. He's good friends with Ross. He has great relationships with people in the Cubs organization.
Helping recruit Xander Bogaerts to the Cubs.
Pitching Xander. Do you honestly think that he was like working against the Cubs on this to talk to somebody with the Cardinals because he was he was pissed at the Cubs? Absolutely freaking not. Absolutely. That never happened. That's just ridiculous. So anyways, I just think going back to the point with the catcher part, there's a reason why Lester and guys like that, they wanted to pitch to Ross, for example. Lester wanted to pitch to Ross as his designated catcher. There's a reason why that's why Ross came in here. Because of Lester. That's why he was signed by the Cubs. But look at guys like Kyle Hendricks. They want to pitch to Yan Gomes, right? Catching, there's a lot of nuance to catching. It's not just – and Willson Contreras has the most passion out of any player probably. Like, I don't know if there's a more passionate player than Willson Contreras. He plays with that fire. The Venezuelan, juice is just, pumping through his blood. And this dude – he's probably going to kill somebody on the field, at some point. And, and that'd be great. Like, I would love to see it. I don't actually want him to kill somebody, but
just watch a Milwaukee series that they play next year.
There you go.
Oh, that's gonna
keep hitting them. Oh my God! If it's competitive and you have and he's on a winner next year,
just watch it. Yeah, he's going to fight somebody.
It's going to be annoying if they're winning with Willson Contreras, right? It's going to be annoying if they're kicking our ass and he's hitting a bunch of bombs. I'm going to absolutely hate every part of that. But there's a lot of nuance to being a catcher. Pitch framing, throwing, managing a game, calling a game, working with pitching staffs, just the planning before the game, the relationships you're building with an entire staff. I'm not saying that Willson Contreras is a bad teammate. I think he'll go to war for his teammates. I think he's really good with the younger players like Christopher Morel, Nelson Velasquez, all those guys. But I think the Cubs took a philosophical approach. They're looking for something in particular, specific traits, and just what they're looking for in a catcher, defensive, an importance on the defensive side of things. And that's not to say there's a lot of people talking about Contreras is horrible at it. I'm not saying he's horrible at it. I just don't think he's as good as they want him to be, especially for a team that's trying to build up this young pitching group. And guys, they're really putting importance on the prospects and acquisitions. It also lures free agent pitchers. So I don't have a problem with them moving on. I'm getting sick of the Jed Hoyer shit though. Like you said, Tyler, like we're putting this on Jed Hoyer, who has not had a free rein and spending money for a while now. And now he's getting a little bit of free rein, reportedly, supposedly. We don't know exactly 100%, but that's what's been floated out there. And now, so he gets a chance to actually build this thing back up. And we're already saying he's doing a terrible job because they haven't won for 2 seasons. It's been 2 seasons since they haven't been 2 seasons. Do you know how many teams go through long lulls of not being in the postseason? It's been 2. We're fucking spoiled. I'm getting sick, and that's why I'm getting a little upset right now because it actually fucking pisses me off reading these comments. I'm sorry I'm cussing.
Can we bring up the post that was a very popular post on Twitter today, the poll? Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Because there's no context to it.
Yeah,
so it's ridiculous. It's going to make you mad. It's going to. I'm already mad, Tyler.
You're right. Yeah.
No, but you're right though. That's just it was a clickbait type of engagement thing.
If fans want to be mad at somebody, if fans just want to be pissed off, and I like obviously we're not. We done said we're happy for them. If people want to be pissed, why not point the finger at Willson instead of Jed? It's like Willson chose. That's who he chose.
He could have taken the qualifying offer for a little bit more money for 1 season. He could have.
But at the same time, I don't blame Willson for taking that.
I don't blame him either.
That contract, but some fans are ignorant.
No, I don't blame him either. And I think sometimes I don't know about you guys. I feel like we're in the Stone Age. Like I really do. Theo good, Jed bad. Theo good, Jed bad. Theo good.
Yeah.
Are we like Theo World Series? Jed bad. Jed monster. Like he was a part of that.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we doing here? Like, let him at least try before you were Theo bad or Theo good, Jed bad. Like we are not in the Stone Age. I swear, Ron, you're gonna make me laugh because you're dying.
It's so true, though. You're right.
It is so true. That's why I'm laughing because it's fucking hysterical.
Move on.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Oh, I love these guys, man.
Slogan for just move on.
We're not in the Stone Age anymore. Get rid of the Flintstone Mobile. We're moving on. We're trying to win with a new group. There's one person left here that was with the World Series team. Technically 2, if we count David Ross.
And honestly, speaking of that, just not that guy's. There's a high chance that guy's going to be gone before the end of this year.
There is short leash, and look, I feel like I'm the guy that's like people are going to look at me and hate me. Like you hate all the World Series core members. Absolutely not. I cried when they won. I cried the next year, the first game I went to, because I was like, this is the team that did it. Holy shit, this is the team that did it. So don't tell me I don't appreciate these guys. But I'll tell you right now, there comes a time, especially like Juice said, I'm not celebrating any more World Series because I want to win more. I'm to that point. I've been to that point. We've been talking about it for a while. This team will spend money again. It sounds like they're ready to spend money again. They've already spent some money. Let's move on. Let's go. It's time.
Yeah, and I think you guys both put it really, really well. And truthfully, like, I think my kind of thoughts, some of them echo what you guys had to say, and I have a little more to add. But I'm happy for Willie. He got paid. Man made $87.5 million. Like the guy's been stuck in arbitration for how many years? He finally got to go to free agency and he got a big payday. Good for him. That's generational wealth. That's going to take care of him and his family. It's going to take care of his grandkids. Good for Willie. I am happy for Willie. I have a lot of the same feelings I had when Dexter went to St. Louis. Like, damn it, it's going to be really shitty seeing you in Cardinal red, but I still like you as a person. I like you as a player. I still appreciate every single thing he did. You know, if I attend a game, the first game he comes back and they do the montage, I'm going to be up there cheering for him and appreciating him. This is the thing that I think a lot of Cubs fans in general are some of the most loyal fans when it comes to players. And that can be a good thing and a bad thing. And I think we see why it's a bad thing on the south side of Chicago in front offices in terms of too much loyalty. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to be loyal to these guys and appreciate what they did, right? Because they did. They were a part of that team that broke the greatest arguable curse and drought in professional sports. They brought a Chicago Cubs World Series to the city of Chicago. But like you guys said, every good thing comes to an end. That's just natural. That's the way it is. And not everything can be a 15-year run like people want it to be. That's just not realistic. That's not life. That's not sports. That's not anything. The fact that there were teams that were able to keep it together for as long as they did, it is all the more reason it's incredible. Like the fact that Cubs were able to keep that core together as long as they weren't actually have some level of success is a success in itself. And I think, you know, what we're also seeing is it's a changing of the guard. The Cubs have identified guys they want to keep. The Cubs have also identified that baseball's changing, and we're seeing that with the rule changes. We're seeing that with just how guys are playing nowadays. Let's say it with me, guys. Let's call a spade a spade.
Let's go. It was coming.
Because, like, Willson's 31 years old, and he's a catcher. There's very few. We see it with Yan Gomes, right? Yan Gomes will come through and have a big hit every once in a while, but you're lucky if Yan Gomes hits 230 for you because his knees are shot. He's there to be a defensive catcher. He's there to call games. He's there. That's his contribution to the lineup. If Willie's knees are going to be preserved, I'm not bashing the guy. There's a saying my older brother said, and a quick little story for everybody. I'm just warning everybody watching with us. We are going to probably go at least an hour on this episode because we do have a couple more things we want to talk about after this. But there's something that my older brother always says, and for quick context, for those that don't know, I have two older half siblings. My older brother is 10 years older than I am. We same dad, different moms. You would never know it, though, because we're the same person. The only difference is he doesn't have a beard. He's clean-shaven. He has a buzz cut. He's in the Army. He's tatted head to toe. But we sound like the exact same person when we speak, our mannerisms, cadence, etc. So I'm going to say it exactly the way he would say it. And if my old man's watching, he's probably going to laugh hysterically because he's heard this probably numerous times. My older brother will always say, he's like, hey, man, facts are facts. He goes, I'm just on the side of the truth. And that's what I'm about to speak here to you guys. I'm on the side of the truth, and here's why. Because Willson Contreras, outside of the 2016 season, right, because obviously he came up late in the year, had a great run, obviously playing all over the field that year. Willson Contreras' career high in games played is 138 in one season, which for a catcher is still fucking banana lands. And if the DH was in the NL, I promise you right now that number would have been higher if that was the case, because that number came in 2018. But even the last 2 years now that we've, you know, and even this year where we saw the DH, how many seasons have we seen Willson get hurt? He has injury history. They're not like, you know, season-ending injuries by any means, but he gets banged up. He takes he's taken a lot of miles, not necessarily even just on his knees, but just on his body in general. He plays hard, and sometimes guys that play hard pay for it in just terms of how your body physically responds. So, you know, in a lot of ways, for the Cardinals, this is a gamble because they are saying, hey, we are going to go get the best catcher to replace the mediocre shitbag that people think is a Hall of Famer. And, you know, we're going to pay him very respectfully. $87.5 million ain't nothing to sneeze at, boys. I would take 87.5 for way worse things than playing baseball. Like, and they're taking a chance. He's 31 years old. Like, who's not to say that his body starts to break down and he has to become like a first base DH in the next 2 or 3 years, which for the Cardinals, I think they could justify 17.5, but you have Goldie. Like, how many more years is Goldie going to play? So it's not like it's an easy, like, oh, yeah, we'll need a first baseman in 2 years. Like, we'll just bump him over at that point. And he's athletic enough where you can play him around the field. But I really do like what you said, Joey. He went to the team that's going to give him the most time behind the plate because that's what he wants to do. He's a catcher. It's in his blood. It's in his DNA. It's in his competitive nature. He wants to play catcher. And he's going to go do that, and he's going to get a chance to do that. And I'll tell you what, man, I hope he plays incredibly well. I hope he's fantastic. The Cubs probably aren't going to have an all-star worthy catcher for years, so I hope he makes the NL All-Star team for a couple more times before he's done. I just hope every time he plays the Cubs, he goes 0 for 4. That's all I'm saying. Like, that's all I want to see. He can go fucking 3 for 4 against every other team in the entire league, but every time they play the Cubs, buddy, maybe 1 for 4, you can get your single. Just don't do any meaningful damage. Don't break my heart like that. That's all I'm asking.
See, I'm like, I want him to go like 4 for 4, 2 home runs, and the Cubs win by like they're both solo shots, and the Cubs win.
Yeah, that's fine too, as long as the Cubs are actually doing it. But I swear to God, if
it's tough to get in that uniform though, it will suck.
I don't need him walking off the Cubs or some bullshit in a game. Like that's gonna be like, oh, you bastard. Like that's the song.
What if he does the Sox game bat flip past the ball?
You know what? Honestly, though, if he gets the opportunity to do it, I won't be mad at him. I'll be like, you know what? Good for you. Fuck yeah, you should do that.
I just want, if there's any St. Louis fans out there listening, because I'm sure there's not any good St. Louis podcasts out there to listen to. I just want any of you St. Louis fans that know me from the past, I just want you all to know that I've kept receipts. I've kept receipts every time you've talked shit about Willson Contreras. I just want you to know I've got receipts, and I'm throwing them out there the first time you want to start praising them. So
there's gonna be a lot of that.
And hey, at the same time, don't be shocked. Don't be shocked if like, I hope he does well, but I also wouldn't be shocked if they treat him like they treated Dexter Fowler. So, because that's St. Louis for you. But yeah,
that's St. Louis. That's a shitbag city for you. But guys, just really quickly to kind of round out the Willson Contreras talk in a little bit of my monologue here is, I kind of alluded to this in a tweet that I said earlier. Everybody, I had a bunch of my buddies that are Sox fans texting me throughout the day. Oh, are you okay? Do you need a grieve? And I'm like, guys, we've had a whole calendar year to go through this grieving process. The rumors that he was on the trade block started last winter.
Oh yeah.
We went through the reality that he was probably not going to be a Cub after the trade deadline. Then they keep him. Then we all accepted the fate that he probably wasn't coming back. I've already gone through my grieving process. I'm numb. I'm numb to him leaving at this point in terms of like being visibly upset about it, because we already rode that roller coaster. I've rode that roller coaster so many times. I don't like roller coasters. I rode that roller coaster so many times. I've already puked in 3 fucking puke bags. Like, I'm good. I got it out of my system.
No Raging Bull at Six Flags for you, Ron?
Fuck no, dude. I went on Viper and I was like, I'm good, dog. Like, I don't do roller coasters. But like, I think that's where I'm at personally. And that's just kind of what to wrap it up is I'm happy for Willson. He got his money. Good for you, big dog. As person to person, hell yeah, you go get your bag, baby. I'm not mad about that. But, it still sucks that he's going to St. Louis. But you know what? There is a small part of me that's excited for the first time St. Louis plays at Wrigley next year, because he's still going to get a warm welcome. People love Willie.
He'll get a standing.
Yeah, absolutely should.
He's still so respected. He's going to be appreciated. But guys, kind of wrap down the show here. We still got a little bit of time, but we don't got to go too crazy here. But I want to start talking about a little bit of hypotheses, right? Because I'm hoping we're back on the microphone one more time, at least this week, talking about the Cubs signing somebody, preferably tomorrow. But I want to throw this back over to you guys and start talking about things here and kind of breaking some things down. Give me 1 or 2 guys that you think the Cubs are going to sign before, we'll say, the end of next week, because I don't know how much more they're going to do necessarily at the winter meetings, but because of all these conversations that have been had, I'm willing to bet there's going to be a string of transactions that happen after like the technical conclusion of the winter meetings that are pretty close after. Give me like 1 or 2 guys that you're just like, I think the Cubs could get this, and not that you want to see, that you think they're gonna get. Like, I want to know who are the Cubs signing, 1 or 2 guys that they are for sure signing based on how things are going. And yeah, like Jeremiah said, tonight would be great for guys to get signed, because then we're for sure doing another podcast tomorrow. But talk to me. Who do you guys think? And Joey, I'll let you lead this one off, my friend. Who will we get?
I'm probably not the best one to start with, because I feel like I'm to the point, Ron, with the shortstops conversation where I just show me. Like what's going to happen? Like following the rumor mill is fun. It's throws you for a loop. It's like I can get sucked into it just like anyone else. But like I'm kind of the point where when it's announced, and I don't really want to make a prediction. I'm still holding out hope that like I think they're going to land one. There's too much smoke. I really believe that there's way too much. There's been too much talk. They know how much of a need it is. That there's going to be a shortstop landed. Personally, I'm predicting Dansby Swanson. I guess at this point, but I guess like who do I? Otherwise, I really think that they're going to get. I guess I'll say Senga because I think that that's a really good pairing. Is like getting Senga and Swanson. So, and I don't know. I'm holding. I don't know what shortstop they're going to get. Just get one. I think they're going to get one.
I like it.
Not to copy Joey, but I'm being dead serious. It's not like we said on the last episode. I'm on the Correa train, but who I think they're going to get. I think the more and more we talk about it before the show, I think Swanson makes the most sense. To be honest, I think it's between for him. I think it's between Atlanta and Chicago, and I don't think Atlanta's going to bite on maybe what he wants as far as money. And yeah, I think Senga. I think there's been too much connection with the two between as far as with us and them. And yeah, as far as Swanson, I think that makes the most sense. Hey, the fiance lives in Chicago. People can say what they want. That's a big factor. I know it sounds silly, but look at Freddie Freeman last year.
Look at Turner, East Coast family.
Look at Trey Turner. Location, if he can't go to if he can't stay in Atlanta, Chicago's pretty close.
Look at Zach Wheeler signing with the Phillies over the White Sox. Same dollar value, but because he was closer to family, he chose Philly.
Exactly. Yep. And I know people
location.
People can say what they want. Oh, that's not a big deal. It is. It is a big deal, especially like not to sound like the old fart back or whatever. Like the older you get, the more you realize. Like location and just convenience.
Yeah.
Just everything like that. And so just think, and honestly, I think the more I read about it, the more I see it and everything like that, I think Correa looks like he may be getting closer to the Giants. The Giants got a huge bag of money. The Padres have a huge bag of money. I think one of them two may make a spin for Correa, but I think Swanson makes the most sense right now. Now tomorrow I might wake up and think, oh my gosh, I may read a tweet from whoever, and completely change my mind tomorrow, but right now at 9:39, Swanson makes the most sense.
I like it. A couple of our comments too. Appreciate you guys jumping in here late, man. Hey, we missed you guys. Thanks for hopping in. Jack, our buddy Jack R says he thinks we're getting Correa. I like the confidence.
Hey, I hope he's right.
And Jeremiah says wants Correa. I agree with that. I think the natural feeling at this point, right, is wanting Correa because of it probably is going to only be one shortstop.
Real quick though, with Correa, just to think, the one thing with if we get Correa, my opinion, I think that's it. I think that's it this offseason because I think just what he's going to ask annually. After that, I think that's it.
I disagree.
You think there'll be more?
Are you saying free agent wise, like
as far as signing guys? Yeah,
the signing because
maybe. I still think there may be a couple small deals here.
I was gonna say you're talking big dollars.
You're talking big. Okay.
Like we get Correa, Senga. I don't think Senga's coming. I don't think not a Bassett, not a Rodon. Maybe we trade for a Murphy, Sean Murphy. I don't know. But as far as I think with Swanson, you sign Swanson, which, like we said, makes more sense. It still leaves the possibility of signing a Senga, Bassett, stuff, and maybe even picking a first baseman. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or a third baseman, whatever.
The reason why I kind of disagree slightly, and maybe you're right about the big signings, right? Maybe if they get Correa, I guess we kind of talked about that earlier. Maybe they don't go get a Senga. So I guess I'm not even necessarily disagreeing with you, but I think if you're going to go over the top, this is the season to do it because you have a lot of money falling off the books next year, and potentially even more money falling off the books with like opt-outs and things like that, like Stroman, and you do have Hayward's contract and coming off, and like there's a lot that's coming off. So if you're gonna theoretically overspend this year and break that luxury tax and sacrifice some things to do it, I think this is the year to do it, and then next year you hop back under. So
because next offseason you've got Ohtani, which everybody's going to be on Ohtani, and his asking price is going to be ridiculous. You've got Ohtani, probably Machado, and maybe Devers as far as like big money guys. I know Matt Chapman comes off too, but like you've got basically Ohtani and Ohtani, Machado, and then everybody else. But like that's it, and everybody's going to be like your odds of getting them are pretty slim. So yeah,
it's a crapshoot at that point, right?
So like you said, and don't get me wrong, we would love to have, sure, everybody would love Ohtani, but like you said, just to agree with you, Joey, this is the off season to do it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and really quick before I give my 2 cents here, I just want to go to a comment here because I think this is just interesting, and I appreciate. I believe a new friend commenting. I don't know if we've seen Mr. Blake will do it.
Yeah.
But he says, don't know why Dansby is hated. I don't know if he's hated, but I understand where he's getting at here. He hits 275 with 25 homers, is good at stealing bags, and probably the best defensive shortstop in the league. And I agree. I think if it wasn't for Correa, Turner, and Bogarts also being out there, Dansby's probably the number one shortstop in the market. It just so happens that four elite shortstops hit the market all at the same time. And I think that's why he's a little slept on this offseason. And maybe people are like, oh, I don't want Dansby because he's just not the sexy pick right now because there are
that's what it is.
Arguably sexier picks on the market. So I agree with that. And Blake is 100% correct here. Everybody just wants the big name. So I'm gonna give 2 quick stances here. I'm gonna give a meatball stance and I'm gonna give a realistic stance. My meatball stance is they still get Bogarts and Swanson, and then they go get Corey Kluber to fill out the rotation, because then they won't spend on Senga. I think if they could go those two. Realistically, I've convinced myself it's Dansby. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be Dansby. I don't hate that. I think it's gonna be Dansby. I think Correa is now playing with really big dollars between the Twins, the Giants, and the Padres. I think those are the 3 teams it's going to come down to for him. I think Bogarts truthfully does end up going back to Boston. I think the negotiations being that way wouldn't be surprising to see him return to Boston, especially because I think Boston is preparing to lose Devers next offseason. So I think they're willing to maybe pony up a little more dollars to keep a guy like Xander in the fold. And they just added that big outfielder from Japan. Kushida, I think is his last name. And
like we said at the beginning of the show, they just signed Kenley Jansen too.
Yeah, so like Boston's kind of reloading. So I think I could see that happening. But I think if they end up getting just Dansby guys, I really think they get 2 pitchers. And maybe they do stay away from Rodon, Bassett, and like an Eovaldi. But I could honestly see them going out and like 2 names for some reason that are just screaming at me, especially for a team that loves reclamation projects, and guys that maybe don't appear to be sexy but are effective. I'm still going to hammer on Corey Kluber. We've seen the reports that the Cubs were kicking the tires on Corey for much of the offseason. I think Kluber's one name we get to see. I think there's an outside chance that Noah Syndergaard gets signed by the Cubs for 1 year. And they say, hey, let us work with you in the pitching lab a little bit for the next 3 months before the season.
He's been very quiet. I haven't heard nothing.
It's been camp. Very quiet. So that's where I'm leaning. I think it's Dansby and a couple of underrated pitching ads. Because Kluber was pretty good last year. Like a lot of people don't realize because he's older and he pitched in Tampa, but he had a really nice year as a starter. So and a lot of familiarity there because of Carter Hawkins and the Cleveland connection too with a guy like Kluber. So that move also kind of makes a lot of sense from that standpoint. Gentlemen, we're an hour and 4 minutes.
Feels like it
this. Yeah, it flies by, man. It just be that way. I'm going to address just a quick comment here too, Jensen. I think you guys will agree with me. Not a shot at anybody. I think it's just an interesting question. Jeremiah asks, why not bring Craig Kimbrell back? And I have a quick monologue on this. I think the way the Cubs are building their bullpen into the future, you will never see them spend significant dollars on a bullpen pitcher ever again. I think they're going to develop guys in-house. When they get too expensive, they'll let them move on, and they'll just bring up some no-name guy like a Brandon Hughes to come in and fill in again. They have the pitching lab. They have that Carter Hawkins and Dan Kantrovitz just pipeline of being able to identify pitching. I think that's why Craig Kimbrell doesn't come back. And look at what some of these relievers are getting, right? Kenley Jansen, who admittedly has been a bit of a roller coaster over the last 3 or 4 years. He had a pretty good year last year, but he got 16 mil. That's a lot of money for a guy that pitches 1 inning a night. That's what I think a lot of people need to understand is the Cubs had one of the best bullpens in baseball, and it was also one of the cheapest bullpens in baseball. And that is a fucking cheat code if you have that combination, because you can spend elsewhere. So not to take a shot. It's not a shot at Jeremiah. I think he brings up a fair point that a lot of people are probably going to ask. Are the Cubs going to go spend heavy on a reliever? Heavy? No. Could I see them bring back a guy like maybe Andrew Chafin to be like that pricey reliever who's probably still only going to cost you maybe $6 or $7 million? Yeah, I could see that happening, but I don't think a Craig Kimbrell or a trade for like a Liam Hendricks, because he's reportedly on the block from the south side. The 10 million plus days of Cubs signing relievers per year is, I think, dead and gone.
And to be honest, I think the only time we would make a move for a relief pitcher like that, if it not to bring back old memories, but would be like a situation like 2016 where
going to get Chapman.
We were right there.
You're ready.
That was an obvious need.
You needed a closer, and you went and got an elite closer. Yep, I agree.
Maybe you're not giving up to Gleyber Torres, but that was we're breaking the curse move.
Yeah.
That was and you know what? Gleyber really hasn't panned out to be. Again, this is I will save this monologue.
It was a win-win trade, really. I think, in my opinion.
Well, but even then, a lot of people have been underwhelmed by Gleyber's performance in New York, and this is just one quick thing I'm going to remind people: just because a prospect ranks in the top 20 in baseball or anything like that does not mean a fucking thing about if he pans out. That's the one thing I've had to talk friends of mine off ledges about, because they're like, well, why would you extend Ian Happ if you have Brennan Davis and all these other guys in the outfield coming up? I'm like, boy, there is no guarantee any of those dudes make it as MVP players. There is no guarantee. You're more guaranteed with a guy like Ian Happ, who has produced at the major league level. So that's why
a prospect is just a prospect until he's
just not. A prospect until he's not. Exactly. So I will save that what will end up being a 25-minute monologue for another episode, but just something to keep in mind there as well. Guys, I do want to pitch it around the horn really quick here, and I mean really quick. I have a final thought that I want to share that I think we'll all appreciate, so I'll save mine for the end. Tyler, final thoughts before we sign off for the night.
Let's see here. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't get, fans, guys, everybody out there, don't get upset if by the end of the night nothing's happened. And if the rest of the winter meetings is over, chill out. It's going to be, just because the winter meetings is over and we didn't sign a shortstop doesn't mean a damn thing. So at the same time, keep your eyes open and be careful with what you read on Twitter. John Heyman.
Yeah, don't get got. I got today by a fake Xander Bogaerts account, which kind of pissed me off. So it is what it is. Joey, final thoughts.
Well, we all got by a Coke bottle figure. Coke Hamels apparently is making a turn. John Heyman, like you're referring to. But no, man, I'm hoping that nothing happens before I can release this Dansby Swanson article. I've been working on it a little bit, then I get distracted, and then I go back and I add little details to it. And all I'm going to say is this. I think underneath Dansby Swanson, there's more than meets the eye. There's not only is he an all-around good player that we've talked about being underrated, but I think there's some untapped potential there still. And you guys kind of talked about it a little bit on the last show. And I know Jake Bouge, our guy, was in the comments, talking about he's kind of talked himself into Dansby Swanson. And I agree. I think there's another level to Dansby's game. Now, you're talking about bigger bases too. Who's the guy of these three that has the most speed? It's Dansby Swanson. He could be like a 30-30 guy with the bigger bases. We don't know how that's going to play, right? Really what people are looking at with him, they don't like the on-base percentage and the strikeout rate. And that's what pretty much takes down his WRC plus mostly, because the power production's there. He's still hitting for a decent average. The underlying metrics, like the hard hit rate, all that stuff, like the barrel rate. You compare it next to these other guys, I'll save a little bit for the article. I really want you guys to dive into that or like read it when it comes out. And I'm hoping nothing happens. Even if it does, I'll still get it out there. But a little teaser for that. And yeah, I do think that Dansby Swanson is a hell of a freaking player. And he hits for more power than any of these other guys too. And not to say that that's everything, but let's not treat him like he doesn't provide any offense while providing that awesome defense that we love, because that's just not the case. Like it's name value right now. That's really what's going on.
Yeah, and taking a quick look around the league based on the MLB.com article, of all free agents that are available this offseason, Dansby Swanson's like the 5th or 6th highest WAR player that was available. That includes guys like Aaron Judge and some of these other guys that have already signed. So keep that in mind. Like, he was really good. It just so happens he's the 4th best of a bunch of elite shortstops that are all on the market at the same time. Jeremiah has a quick final thought for us here too, really quick. He said Juice was supposed to bring me pretzels, and he's sad now.
Damn.
Juice's voice needed a night off, so Juice will be back. Don't worry, Jeremiah. We'll get you those pretzels. My final thought, it actually comes via a hopeful future friend of the program, but a guy that I think we all admire here and respect very highly. He's over at Out of the Vines on Twitter, Mr. Greg Huss. And it relates back to your point about Willson Contreras was the longest tenured Cub in terms of in the organization. Here is his tweet. Longest tenured members of the Cubs organization. Number 1 currently is David Bodie. The 2012 draft, he was an 18th round pick. Kyle Hendricks, 2012 trade, obviously from Texas for the Ryan Dempster deal. It makes him number 2. Edbert Alzolay is number 3. He was an international free agent in 2012. And number 4 is Justin Steele, friend of the program. He was a 5th round draft pick in 2014. However, technically, with a little star next to it and a little question mark, newly unretired Trey Lang, 2012 6th round pick, would be number 1 on the list as longest tenured Cub, if you want to go by when they joined the organization and not duration of years. Again, a fun fact and a shameless plug back to our interview with Trey. If you haven't listened to that, go listen to that. You can watch it on YouTube. I think it's worth watching. But if you have to just, pop in the headphones on the way to work or something, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, go check that interview out. It was electric, and certainly we're hoping to have him back on the show. And quick little round of applause and kudos to Joey for reaching out and
I'm glad everybody liked it, man. Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, Trey's our guy now for life. Like, just such an awesome dude, man. And I appreciate you guys for watching, listening, and you giving me props for that, letting me kind of like host the show when you're the normal host, but like Trey he's just such an awesome dude, man. Like I really encourage anyone that hasn't seen it, because you get to know him, the story, the grind back. Like everybody talks about the grind. Try taking 8 years off of professional baseball, and then coming back and then throwing close to 98, and then you're with the Cubs and you're next to Justin Steele, and I mean, there's a lot more baked into that, and I won't like keep going here, but it was just a really fun time, man. Honestly, it was just a great time to be able to sit there and have those discussions with them. So,
absolutely.
It was a great job, both of you guys. Like I was telling y'all before the show, I finally got to finish listening to it today, and both of you guys, I mean, it was great. I wanted, like, just like you said at the end of the episode, I wanted to run through a brick wall for that guy. Like, he's a guy, like, I want to root for him now. I don't care if he plays, double A, triple A, gets called up wherever he's at. I want to root for that guy this year.
Yeah,
hell yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and Joey, man, I mean, you nailed it down. It was your show to run with, and I'm not the normal host. I'm just the big talking loud voice that brings everybody into episodes. That's all I'm good for around here. And as that big loud voice, I do want to remind everybody that Cubs on Tap is the official Cubs podcast of the On Tap Sports Network. Be sure to check out all of our great work over at ontapsportsnet.com and at ontapsportsnet on social media. You can follow the pod-specific accounts here at Cubbies on Tap, CUBBIES. That's Twitter and Instagram. Posted Brian Lefevre's awesome thank you, Willie video that he made today. Be sure to check that out. That was really cool that he did. I'm at Loose on Tap.
That's a good plug. That is an awesome video if you haven't seen that.
Big shout out to Brian and Mr. Lefevre there. He's at Joey Knows Nothing. I'm at Loose on Tap. He's at Teddy Freddy 270. You know where Juice is. He's at Juice on Tap. And be following all of our others as well. You know, our boys Brandon Kane and Rob Wegley, who do a lot of great stuff for us here on the Cubs side of the house as well. You know the drill. Bulls, Bears, Blackhawks. Busy night at On Tap Sports Set as well. The Bears guys were on tonight. The Bulls guys, I think, are on right now. The Sox guys were on tonight. It was a busy night of podcasts over here at On Tap Sports.
Everybody's firing right now.
Everybody's firing on all cylinders. So be sure to check out all of those. And yes, Cubs fans, again, we all have friends that like the Southsiders. Our boys over at Sox on Tap do an incredible job. Even if I'm always beefing with NWI Steve on Twitter, and constantly reminding him about you know, just how piss poor that organization is. I haven't posted that rant yet on the TikTok clip of me calling out Sox fans, Tyler.
You
haven't posted it yet. That's going to be tomorrow, and I'm going to watch the world burn, and I'm going to be that might actually go on Twitter too. I might let that one get to the Bluebird app and just watch the world burn, and I can't wait. Like I might do it for my own enjoyment at this point, because why not, right? Like, why not?
Do it tomorrow. Just do it at a time, like, you know, when they make a signing this offseason, they're all happy.
Oh, they did.
Just a second.
They did. You didn't see they made a minor league signing today.
Oh, you've got to drop it then. Drop it.
Big
drop
one
it tomorrow.
Dude.
He's a switch hitter guy.
Yeah, they're on cloud. They're on cloud 9 right now. Just drop it. Just drop it tomorrow. Crush their hopes. Crush their dreams.
I'm swinging. I'm absolutely fucking swinging for the fences. That'll be fun. But again, ontapsportsnet.com, at ontapsportsnet on social media. You can follow us there. The On Tap Sports Network. Go ahead and check out what is on tap in Chicago sports. Also, Joey, you look like Dansby Swanson, according to our new friend Blake Will Do It. I see it too. That shit's really funny, actually. I saw that comment come through, and I was like, I gotta share that, because you absolutely fucking look like, if you grew the hair out a little more, you 100% look like Dansby, and I fucking love it. I respect the absolute shit out of that.
Maybe that's my long lost brother, man. That's why I've been pushing for him lately.
It's that interstellar connection that you two have, that you're just like, he needs to be a Chicago Cub. It just needs to happen. Blake Will Do It. Elite comment. And elite comments from all of you guys as well. By the way, in the comment section, as always, you guys are the absolute best. Thanks for popping in and being a part of the conversation as well. Joey, what do you got for us real quick?
Oh, I was gonna say, this could play into my favor, like, really nicely. Like, I could go around Wrigley, and I'd just put on a Swanson jersey and just like have a hat and stuff. And like, I mean, he's a little taller, I'm pretty sure, but you know, put me on stilts or something. I mean, can make
Joey. I think next year for Halloween, if Dansby signs with the Cubs, we need you to be Dansby Swanson for Halloween.
Dude, you know how many people are gonna be coming up to me and asking for autographs, and I'm gonna be like,
I hope that happens. I hope that happens. We'll have to go out in Wrigleyville too when it happens. So like, you get a bunch of actual Cubs fans that are like, you actually look like him, and you'll be like, yeah, I'm, you know, maybe a little shorter, but that's okay. Like, we're here.
That's all right. That's all right.
Hey, nonetheless, man. And
hit him with this and be like, is he Italian? No.
All right, dudes. Hey, what do you guys say? I'm hoping we're back on the mic before the end of the week for those listening at home. If we're not, surely we'll be back next week. I'm sure at some point. And you know, keep your eyes on the old Bluebird app. Shit's going to be popping off probably over the next week or two. Obviously, things will slow for a little while, probably closer to Christmas, and then I would imagine after the first of the year, it'll pick right back up again. So it'll be busy, and hopefully the Cubs are very busy, because we like when signings happen, because that's cool and tough. So, gentlemen, what do you say? We get out of here the only way we know how. At Cubs on Tap.
Hey, love you, Willie, but fuck them Cardinals.
Especially today.
Especially.
And as always, let's go Cubbies.